Namaste, my dosta. Welcome back to my channel, guys, and happy Ganesh Chaturthi to you. I'm a little bit late, I'm sorry about it, but still, let's find out about this god. Also, I've checked some information on internet, and I want to read it. So, Ganesh Chaturthi is the name of a Hindu festival celebrating the birth of the elephant-headed deity Ganesha, the god of wisdom and remover of obstacles. So yeah, it is really interesting that he is the god of wisdom. Also, I've heard that he wrote Mahabharata. One of my subscribers told me this. And also he is the son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. So guys, give me a thumbs up and let's watch.
He's perhaps one of the most revered deities in the Hindu pantheon. You'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't recognize the elephant-headed god, Ganesha.
Right.
But what is it that makes Ganesha such a renowned character that is recognized worldwide? Well, for one, Ganesha is known as the Lord of Good Fortune, and he is said to provide wealth, prosperity in both the mind and the wallet, as well as blessing his devotees with success in their own endeavors.
Which is nice.
Others recognize
By the way,
Ganesha
guys,
as
I just wanted to say that he is really so much popular, and if you go to any Indian stores in Russia, you will see statues of Ganesha just really everywhere in these kind of stores.
Lord of new beginnings, whether in relationships, business, or any form of life. He can be seen as the remover of obstacles for those who are struggling, and yet he can also be known as the placer of obstacles, given that he seeks to challenge those who are not growing. He also seeks to challenge those who have done wrong, and takes on a minor role at times as being the destroyer of vanity and pride.
Wow.
Regardless of the other spiritual associations a Hindu may have, many still make time to honor Ganesha, whose image is found virtually everywhere in India and in many places across the globe. His presence, though, also spreads outside of Hinduism, where he is associated with the first chakra, and thus represents survival
Chakra, like
and
root
the base
chakra?
for all other forms of life.
Alright.
Others see Ganesha not just as the Hindu deity, but also a patron of science and the arts. In the actual Hindu tales, Ganesha, like many of the other gods, have taken on a different role here and there. Several sacred Hindu texts speak about Ganesha quite vividly, and it's easy to see why he is so popular, given that his tales appear to have distinct moral endings. For the most part, Ganesha is said to be the son of Shiva, the destroyer, and his wife Parvati.
Yeah, I was surprised to know about this
There are many different variations
story.
of Ganesha's conception,
How he got
including being
this head
created by
of
Shiva
elephant.
alone, being created by Parvati alone, being created by the pair of them through the regular means of conception, or simply by finding him. Ganesha is also commonly associated with being the brother of Kartikeya, otherwise known as Murugan, the god of war. But despite Kartikeya's position as the god of war, his popularity and worship is considerably less than that of his brothers.
Okay.
Ganesha is most commonly seen as having an elephant's head and a large round belly. However, there have been some variations of Ganesha's appearance, including depictions of him simply being a boy, as well as a regular elephant. We commonly see Ganesha with 4 arms, although there exist depictions of Ganesha having as few as 2.
Because at first, like, Ganesha was just a boy as a god, right? And when Shiva just misbehaved him, and after that replaced his head with a head of an elephant, and it is really so crazy story.
Arms, and as many as 16. With the more common
16
4-arm depiction,
arms. Okay.
we see Ganesha holding his own broken tusk, a sweet, an axe, and a noose. In other depictions of Ganesha with more than 4 arms, he can be seen holding a water lily, a mace, a discus, a rosary, a bowl of sweets, musical instruments, spears, and staffs. In these depictions, Ganesha may be seen in a variety of different poses. We may see him in a tantric yoga pose, or standing upright. We may see him dancing, or even crawling in a more childlike form. In other depictions, he is even seated on Parvati's knee. Ganesha may also be seen with his mount, which ironically happens to be a mouse. The use of a mouse is symbolic, given that elephants are known to fear mice, at least from ancient myths, that is. And so with this embracing of the mouse as a mount, it shows Ganesha's ability to overcome all obstacles, including fear itself.
Oh, that's nice.
As I mentioned earlier,
I didn't know
there
about
exist many
mice
vivid
and
tales of
elephants.
Ganesha, whose stories serve to teach us clear moral lessons. However, Ganesha also has one of the most unique origin stories, which describes how he came to possess the head of an elephant. It's understood from these tales that the goddess Parvati wanted to bathe in privacy, and so she created a boy and assigned him to guard the entrance of her bathroom. But when her husband Shiva returned home and found the boy
Yeah, he
standing
didn't
guard,
get
he
who
went
is
to move
he.
past him. But Ganesha blocked Shiva's path, denying his entrance as
Ah,
Parvati
look
had
at this.
instructed him to. Not to be defied though, least of all by a child, Shiva struck off the boy's head with his sword. When Parvati emerged from the bathroom and found the decapitated boy, she was terribly upset.
Yeah, it's like
Seeking
crazy,
to undo the damage
really.
he'd done, Shiva sent out his warriors to find the first dead creature they could find, which happened to be an elephant. In other versions, it is Shiva himself who dashes out into the wilderness to find the first animal he can find, which turned out to be an elephant as well. In both cases, the head of an elephant was removed and placed on the body of the dead boy.
By the way,
boy with the-
here I want to say that it is interesting that in different mythologies there are some cases when gods have animal head. So, for example, the god Ra, Egyptian god, also has the face of an eagle, and Ganesha. So it's not even typical only for Indian pantheon. It is like all over the world, this kind of situation.
Brought back to life by Shiva, and thus the boy became the elephant-headed god we all know today. Given that his role was created in this instance to guard Parvati's doorway, Ganesha's depictions are often placed facing doorways to keep out those who are not permitted to enter. There are other famous accounts, though conflicting, including the story of how Ganesha's tusk came to be broken. One popular idea is that Ganesha actually broke it off himself when he couldn't find any writing utensils, so that he could write the Mahabharata, one of the world's longest epic poems. The task at hand was so urgent that his string of thoughts could not be interrupted with the finding of another pen. The sacrifice of his own tusk signifies the
Interesting.
sacrifice one may make in creative endeavours in order to complete one's work to the fullest. Another account suggests that the Mahabharata was created by a sage, and that it was he who was telling the tale to Ganesha, who was writing it down.
Okay.
However, when Ganesha's quill snapped, he immediately broke off his own tusk to use instead, as the sage would not stop the story. In another story, Ganesha is asked by Shiva to guard his room as he takes a nap inside. But when a proud warrior named Parashuram came to visit Shiva, he was blocked by Ganesha. Out of frustration of being denied entrance by this weird hybrid elephant boy thing, Parashuram threw his axe at Ganesha's head. Ganesha was able to block the attack, but his tusk took most of the impact, causing it to break off.
Okay.
Another tale speaks of how Ganesha went around all the houses of the land on one of his birthdays to collect sweets and cakes, which he stored in his stomach. However, on the way home, the mouse which was his mount saw a snake and became so startled that it stumbled. This caused Ganesha to be hurled from his seat, and he would cut open his own stomach, causing all the sweets and cakes to burst out onto the floor. Unwilling to leave them behind for everyone to see, Ganesha gathered them all up and stuffed them back into his stomach. He then grabbed hold of the snake that the mouse had seen and used it to tie up his stomach to prevent the sweets from spilling out again.
It is
In some
difficult.
versions, the moon happens to see Ganesha fall and comes alive with laughter at the god's expense. Annoyed by this, Ganesha pulls off his tusk and hurls it at the moon, silencing it.
Wow, okay.
Ganesha appears to have quite a few run-ins with the other gods, and his relationships with them seem to see him get the better of them, even against the supreme gods like Vishnu. In one story, Vishnu, who is known to carry a magic conch that he keeps with him at all times, could not find it. He became rattled at not being able to find the conch and organized a massive search for it. But during the search, Lord Vishnu heard the sound of it being played somewhere in the distance. He zoomed off in that direction, only to find Lord Ganesha happily playing with it in the mountains. When Ganesha would not relinquish the conch though, not even to Vishnu himself, Vishnu went to Ganesha's father, Shiva, expecting him to bring his son to order. But Shiva merely sighed and claimed that he had as much power over Ganesha as Vishnu did, and that the only way to reclaim the conch was to pray to him. Reluctantly,
Okay.
Vishnu performed a prayer in honor of Ganesha.
Oh,
Seeing
Vishnu.
this, Ganesha was both
okay.
proud and pleased that Vishnu had paid him respects, and so returned his conch to him. In this light, we see Ganesha as quite mischievous, and that he likes to have light-hearted fun at the other gods' expenses, even those who are considered to be much more powerful than him.
Whoa, it is a beautiful
Shiva's
story.
reluctance to get involved directly just goes to show us that even he, the destroyer, cannot deal with Ganesha's mischief. Another example of Ganesha getting the better of the other gods with his sometimes absent or simply impish mindset is when he is invited to a sumptuous ceremony, hosted by the god of wealth, Kubera.
Kabira.
Kubera invited many of the other gods and goddesses to join them in what he hoped would be a spectacular evening. However, when Ganesha arrived, he began devouring all the food, to the point that he would leave nothing for the other guests.
He
His
is
hunger, though, was not
really
satisfied with just the
just
food,
a bad
so he
boy.
began consuming Kubera's personal collection of wealth, including the gold itself. Even after this, his hunger wasn't sated, and he even tried to eat Kubera himself.
What?
Kubera scolded Ganesha for his behaviour, but he realised his words were falling on deaf ears. So like Vishnu in the previous tale, Kubera went to Shiva in hopes that he'd be able to reprimand his own son.
He's really rebellious.
Shiva simply offered Ganesha a bowl of oats,
Okay.
and it was with this gesture that managed to sate the god's appetite. So stunned by this, Kubera asked why it was that just simple oats were enough to stop Ganesha's rampage. Shiva explained that Ganesha's rampage was born out of Kubera's greed, and that this whole experience was to teach Kubera a lesson that he should not put all
Ganesha
his
is
faith
just
and
a
well-being into his
perfect teacher.
possessions, and that he should share more. The moral of this story serves to show us that just because we may have a lot of money, like Kubera, we should be careful not to spend it so frivolously.
He's like Robin Hood.
Ganesha's mischievous sneak has gotten him into a lot of trouble. However, in one story, Ganesha, who was still a child at this point, was playing with a cat. The cat, being a cat, had decided it no longer wished to play, and so strutted off. But Ganesha kept prodding it and pulling its tail, even though the cat meowed and hissed at him. Ganesha failed to notice these signs though, and it wasn't until he got home did he find his mother, Parvati, covered in bruises. Ganesha rushed to her and asked her what had happened, to which Parvati explained that she had taken the form of the cat, and that it was he who had done this to her, even as she hissed at him to stop.
No.
It caused Ganesha to realize the
What?
unfairness and ruthlessness of his ways,
It
that he had
was
hurt someone he
Parvati?
loved because of his own negligence to their feelings.
Okay.
Ganesha would become deeply sorry for his actions and took an oath that he would treat all animals in future with gentle care and affection.
I love it.
Shiva would certainly revere his own son in a way that's quite unexpected,
I love
given
cats.
that he himself was a supreme god on the same
My
level as
big
Brahma and
love.
Vishnu. In another story, we see the relationship between Shiva and Ganesha deepen when Shiva honors Ganesha, stating that whenever someone begins a new venture in life, they would need to worship Ganesha to receive his blessing. This included Shiva himself. So on one occasion, when Shiva was heading out for a war against the demons,
He's like really
he
powerful.
forgot to pray to Ganesha for his blessing. This would lead Shiva and his army to become afflicted with misfortune on their way to the battle, where their war carriage lost a wheel, and the entire army came to a halt. It was during this moment that Shiva realized he'd forgot to get the blessings of his son for this new endeavor, and so he quickly performed a worship ritual in honor of Ganesha. With this, he
It is
received
like
Ganesha's
really
blessing,
interesting, but
and Shiva and his army
he
were
is
able
his
to
son.
defeat the demons. The final
okay.
story I'll talk about in this video, before I get out of here, is my favourite story
Oh.
between Ganesha and his brother, Kartikeya.
Cut to
One
cat.
day, their mother Parvati would be granted a special fruit by a sage that would grant he who consumed it a great power. Parvati would attempt to split the fruit in half to share with her sons, but the sage explained that in doing so, the fruit would lose its power. Only if it was consumed by one entity would it grant the eater its powers. Unsure of which son to give the fruit to, Shiva devised a contest where the brothers would have to compete. The winner would be the recipient of the fruit. The contest would consist of circumventing the world 3 times, and whoever did so first would be the winner. Wasting no
A
time,
really difficult task.
Kartikeya summoned his peacock mount and dashed off to circumvent the world. But Ganesha, being the pot-bellied, stocky being that he was, he knew he could not hope to keep up with Kartikeya. Furthermore, Kartikeya and his peacock mount were far more suited to travelling across the harsh terrain. Ganesha had a
Okay.
mouse for a mount, and didn't have the build to go about running the way Kartikeya could. So he came up with a genius, if not partially manipulative idea. He began to circle his parents 3 times, and when asked what he was doing, Ganesha explained that he was circling his world.
I love this god.
So
I
touched by
love
his
him.
gesture, Shiva and Parvati gave Ganesha the fruit.
Tricky.
It's unknown if Ganesha was actually authentic
Really
with his
smart,
gesture,
right?
but given how rascally Ganesha could be, it's safe to assume that he may have been pulling on his parents' heartstrings in order to get what he wanted. Either way, it shows us that while Kartikeya was the brawn in this scenario, Ganesha was the brain, and that in this sense, wisdom triumphs over strength.
Wow, guys, I really loved Lord Ganesha, and now he's one of my most favorite Hindu gods. And yeah, he's so tricky, just really a bad guy sometimes, but of course smart. And right now I understand why he is the god of wisdom, so I didn't know it before. And also, guys, I was so much surprised when he wrote Mahabharata, or was it a sage who was writing it with him? So it's really, we don't know what is the truth, but also one of my members wrote me a very good explanation about Ganesha. So he texted, I will just read it. Mother Parvati made Lord Ganesh by the central place of her body and gave it life. And hence Lord Ganesh was born. So guys, yeah, it is really interesting this whole process of the birth of Lord Ganesh, and then this legend that Shiva just misbehaved him, right? So really, just very interesting god. He is so popular, maybe because of all these stories in Russia. Really, Ganesha is very popular. And as I told you, if you go to any place, to any Indian market, any festival, Indian festival here, you will see, of course, the statues of Lord Ganesha. So guys, also tell me any interesting stories of this god. I would be interested to know, and if you like this video, you can support me with your likes, comments. You can also join my membership and see you in my next videos. Bye bye.